After an absolutely epic lead up, the Olympic finals were upon us, and what a finals it was, with big moments aplenty. With just 8 competitors and all scores reset to 0, it was all to play for. And to begin with, things kicked off with the bouldering. Problem 1 featured an awkward, rounded and perplexing start, leading to 2 big moves between sloping dishes, and a particularly awkward and directional finishing hold that seemed hard to match on first acquaintance. Hamish MacArthur came out and made immediate headway, much like he has throughout the rest of the competition, climbing with confidence. He flashed his way through to the high zone, but failed on those final moves. However, the fact that he looked as comfortable as he did throughout those early sections meant he got repeated attempts at that final move, and each time refined his sequence before eventually catching it. USA's Colin Duffy actually had trouble with the incredibly awkward start, failing on repeated attempts and even trying a peculiar face-out maneuver, which didn't work. But when he eventually made it through, he proceeded to make the rest of the problem look incredibly straightforward, getting his well-deserved top. Francis Paul Gempt made the initial move look easy, but faltered in the middle and failed to get a top. Jakob Schubert from Austria also made that start look hard. However, much like USA's Colin Duffy, made it look easy, and so easy in fact that he managed to hit those final holds statically. Adam Ondra from the Czech Republic also found those start moves tricky, a recurring theme throughout the problem. But he also had issues in getting any further than that too. Sticking to quite an awkward sequence and reluctant to try any new beta, he only managed to make it through to attempt that final move to the finishing holds with seconds on the clock, leading him to rush and fall, so he only made the higher zone. GB's Toby Roberts came out with high expectation upon his shoulders, and again struggled with that start, but once through, absolutely powered his way, double dynoing to the finishing hold and sticking it. And last but by no means least, Serato and Raku from Japan, who did what only Serato could and came out and flashed the problem, showing the same level of dominance he had throughout the first 2 problems within the semi-finals. Alberto Gines Lopez of Spain failed to make it through that initial sequence and thus came away without a single point. Problem 1 was actually the perfect example of how the setters can split the field, with one competitor coming away with no points, 1 with a low zone, 1 with a high zone, 4 tops and 1 flash. Next up was problem 2. This featured some extremely poor yellow volumes for feet and probably similarly poor black holds for hands. This boulder was almost at the risk of being irrelevant as everyone got to in and around the same point, but there were 3 exceptions. Alberto Gines Lopez only made it to the low zone, which cemented the poor round he'd had so far, and a long way to catch the other competitors up. Toby Roberts took 11 attempts to make it to that high zone and did so very late within his 4 minutes allocation. Thus, the pressure was very much on. And finally, Serato made it through to the high zone in only 5 attempts. And then on that 5th attempt, made it through to the top, being the only competitor to complete the problem that day. And on to problem 3. This was potentially the most physical problem of the day, going through steep and powerful roofy terrain into what looked to be an incredibly awkward move on undercut, where applying pressure through your feet and maintaining that core strength looked integral. This again was a boulder that really split the field, with 2 athletes failing to get any points in the form of Paul and Adam, 4 reaching the high zone in the form of Hamish, Colin, Alberto and Serato, and finally Toby Roberts hitting the top. With Serato having topped problem 2, Toby's topping of problem 3 felt crucial in the balance of power and points that were available. At this point, you got the feeling like this could be a major moment. Problem 4 started with a dynamic sideways leap, which led up into a 3-move paddle dyno. Now, as if that wasn't dynamic enough, it then involved a lache back over to a balance point at a horrendous looking split mono pocket to finish. GB athlete Hamish MacArthur impressed once again, not least when he made progress through that paddle dyno by omitting all of the paddling and simply dynoing from low down to the high zone in a single double dyno. This wasn't something that was repeated by any other competitors or perhaps anticipated by the route setters, but it was a great show of form. Unfortunately, he didn't manage to stick the moves above, but he did get that high zone. Whilst the paddle dyno was enough to see off Adam Ondra and Toby Roberts, it was that final move, the lache, which saw off the rest of the field. And the only person to complete the problem was USA athlete Colin Duffy. Colin looked significantly smoother on the lower sections of this problem than anyone else. And this enabled him to have repeated attempts at that awkward final move, which he refined at each attempt. And it was great to see him top it. So with Serato the only person to top problem 2, Toby the only person to top problem 3, and Colin the only person to top problem 4, the top end of the leaderboard were extremely tight, separated by just 6.2 points. To put that into context, if each of those 3 athletes were to get high up on the head wall of the lead climb, that would equate to just 2 holds. This made going into the lead finals, which were just a few minutes away from the end of the bouldering, extremely exciting. The route within the men's lead final was long and wandering, taking on the full width of the wall. Now, unlike the route within the men's semi-finals, which felt at the cruxier end of the spectrum, this felt more endurance based. And there was a little bit more time for competitors to ease those nerves and get into the swing of things up the lower section of the route. The route initially featured an easier section on white and black holds before getting into a yellow and blue section, which looked like it benefited a much more efficient and perhaps a more experienced approach. After this, you were thrown into a black and white section on pocket, which felt much more powerful and energetic. There was one move in particular that involved this awkward rotation on one arm, and that looked like it had the potential to sap competitors' strength that they'd definitely be requiring further up on the blue section, which definitely looked like it upped the ante significantly in terms of difficulty. Hamish MacArthur once again put on a fine show, making it through that initial yellow and blue section into the black and white section, where it looked like he maybe got a little more cooked than he'd intended to, which meant that by the time he arrived in the blues, he hadn't got as much left as required, and eventually fell. With a score of 125.9 points, Hamish put himself 100 points clear of the likes of Adam Ondra, Alberto Jimenez Lopez and Paul Jenft, meaning a guaranteed minimum of 5th place and a provisional place of 1st. Next out was USA's Colin Duffy, who made it to a hold short of Hamish's high point. However, due to his superior score within bouldering, came into that provisional 1st position. Now at this point, with 6 competitors to go, it's worth noting that only 3 could mathematically finish ahead of Colin, so he had an awkward wait whilst he found out whether he would finish on the podium. Paul Jenft was one of those people who couldn't catch Colin mathematically, and he took a fall after failing to make a clip in the black and white section in the middle of the route. Jakob Schubert, however, was one of the people who could mathematically catch Colin, but it was by the narrowest of narrow margins. Jakob was going to have to either hit the top of the route or its penultimate hold in order to go ahead of Colin, and that seemed like a tall order. But when it comes to big moments, that is what Jakob is renowned for, and we've seen him do it time and time again. Jakob came out with confidence and immediately looked calmer and more relaxed than any competitor that had come before him. He just seemed to be resting his way up the whole of the route, and he made it past Colin and Hamish's high points, and then he hit the penultimate hold, which is the one required for him to be in 1st place provisionally. Had Jakob have fallen 1 hold sooner, or Colin made it 1 hold further, their positions would have been reversed. That is how close things were. But with 2 competitors to come out, and those competitors being Toby Roberts and Serato and Raku, it was still all to play for. Toby required a score of 80 points to reach that top spot, or 73.3 to guarantee a place on the podium. I think at the point that he arrived out onto the route, the entire British audience took in one big gasp of air because they weren't breathing for the next few minutes whilst he was on the wall. I, for one, found it incredibly stressful to watch and cannot imagine what it was like for Toby being there on the wall. But the reality was that there wasn't too much to be stressed about. Toby climbed stably and securely, making his way steadily up the wall. Initially past the point that he would come third provisionally, second provisionally, and then first provisionally, falling just a move beneath Jakob's high point. As he lowered off, you could see his coaching team showing him the finger to indicate that he was in that first place. At the very least, Toby would be going home with a silver medal, because the next person to step up was arguably the man of the Olympics so far, the 17-year-old man, Serato Anraku from Japan. Behind the scenes at UKC, we were scrambling to figure out the score that Serato would need in order to win, and that score was 86, 4 holds beneath the top of the route. Like Toby, he looked cool and calm on the lower section of the route, but wasted important energy within the black and white section at the beginning, where he inverted going around that awkward one-arm lock move. That said, he got into the blue section looking pretty strong, until he became unstuck. Too shy of his target hold, the wheels fell off, as he made an error looking for a hold, leading to him having to down climb and go back up again, latching a crimp but not quite holding it. And the rest is history. Toby Roberts was our Olympic champion and gold medalist by 9.8 points. Going into the finals, with the final 2 athletes' performance dictating who gets gold and who gets silver, is sport at its very best. As a spectacle for viewers, this competition felt unlike anything we have seen before, and a testament to just how good that combined format can be when it doesn't include speed. Congratulations to Toby Roberts for winning that gold. It is a truly incredible achievement. Congratulations also to Serato Anraku from Japan for winning a silver medal and also being such an outstanding competitor throughout. And at 17 years of age, this is not going to be his last Olympics. And finally, third place, bronze medal to Jakob Schubert from Austria, once again making it in the moment that it was needed the most. UKC editor Natalie Berry was in Paris at the venue, and this is her experience of seeing Toby win gold.
The atmosphere in the stadium after Toby won was incredible. Just Toby sat there in shock, his family in bits, his coaches and fans just in tears and overjoyed for him. Just a thoroughly deserved win, and yeah, emotions were running high, just incredible scenes all around. When we spoke to Toby after his win, we asked him, like, why were you so shocked? Because he kept talking about how shocked he was. Was it because Serato fell off and he was a favourite? He said, to find out you've just won an Olympic gold, it's definitely going to be a little bit of a shock. Going into the competition, I tried to remove all expectations, and yeah, just to realise that I'd won, it was just a rush of adrenaline and emotion and happiness. Toby talked about how he's been working towards this goal with his dad Tristan as his coach for 8 to 10 years now. He said, we created a plan to get this stage. It's been a long journey, there's been a lot of ups and downs, but finally to be on this stage, competing in front of this crowd and to win the gold medal was just a dream come true. Toby said that he knew after his boulder round that he was in contention for a medal and that he just had to keep calm for the lead round. And when we asked, how do you keep calm before you come out to climb, he said, I like to listen to music. It's not actually relaxing music, it's more like pumping music, like Eminem, Lose Yourself. That's my go-to. Yeah, it gets me really psyched. Tristan Roberts, Toby's dad, was asked how he felt when he was watching Toby on the wall, And he said, yeah, as soon as he pulls on the wall, there's nothing to do. Like, from a coaching perspective, the parent kicks in. It's just really hard to watch. My heart was going. I have no idea what my heart rate reached from sitting still, but yeah, it's an emotional roller coaster.
The women's finals are due to take place tomorrow, and here UKC editor Zar White takes a look at some of the key players.
Tokyo 2020 Olympian Brooke Raboutou undoubtedly has one of the best backstories of the Paris qualified athletes. Given her heritage as the daughter of competition climbing's early superstars in the 80s and 90s, Robin Erbesfield-Raboutou and Didier Raboutou, Colorado-born Brooke Raboutou seemed destined to become a talented climber, and her participation in the sport's Olympic debut is a perfect high point in the family narrative. Along with many of her Team USA contemporaries, Brooke is a product of her parents' ABC youth climbing program in Boulder, Colorado, arguably the most successful of its kind in producing successful rock and competition climbers. In Tokyo, Brooke made finals and had the potential to win a medal after a strong boulder round, where she finished in second place behind Janja Garnbret. An early slip in lead ended her competition in a respectable 5th place. Brooke's consistency across lead and boulder since Tokyo has been remarkable, with 13 World Cup podium finishes to her name and her first Boulder World Cup win in Hachioji in 2023. She rarely fails to make World Cup finals in both disciplines. Brooke's movement is gymnastic, combining dynamic skills with tidy footwork and smooth transitions, which play to her advantage in lead, her strongest discipline. Born in the Amstetten region of Austria, just to the southeast of the country's third largest city, Linz, Jessica Pilz has been successful from the first day of her competition career. She won the lead title in 3 successive Youth World Championships between 2011 and 2013, and also won the European Youth Boulder Championship in 2014. That same year, she picked up her first ever IFSC World Cup medal in lead. Jessie is determined, focused, and talented, which is a good combination in anyone's book. She put all of those attributes to good use at the 2018 World Championships when she beat Janja Garnbret and Jae-in Kim to claim the gold medal. On her day, she can beat anyone, and she's a consistent finalist in both boulder and lead. She seems to especially rise to the challenge in championships or one-off events. Since her 7th place finish at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games in the triple discipline format, Jessie's performances in both boulder and lead events have only improved, with consistent semi-final and top 10 results in Boulder World Cups and regular finals in lead, plus a combined world champion title in 2021 and a bronze medal in the European Championships in 2022. Having enjoyed a long and successful career across both disciplines, and with 1 Olympic Games already under her belt, Pilz has the advantage of experience over her younger counterparts. The greatest of all time and sport climbing's first women's Olympic champion, hailing from the small but disproportionately good at climbing country of Slovenia, Janja Garnbret was surrounded by IFSC heroes and a band of talented contemporaries from a young age when she started climbing at 7 years old. Janja has set so many records and won so many events in competition climbing that she has few accolades left to achieve. Janja won back-to-back World Championships in boulder and combined in 2018 and 19, and also reclaimed the lead title in 2019. She's the only athlete to have won a clean sweep of all 6 Bouldering World Cup events in a season, in which she also topped qualification and semi-final rounds, completing 74 of the 78 boulders put in front of her, whilst also having won 10 World Cup overall titles across lead, boulder and combined. In 2019, she did the triple of lead, boulder and combined at the IFSC World Championships in Hachioji, where she deservedly earned her number 1 seed ranking for the Tokyo Games. In 2021, she broke another record, winning her 8th Boulder World Cup in a row, the most consecutive victories in IFSC World Cup events. That same year, Janja overcame significant pressure from fans and herself to become sport climbing's first women's Olympic champion, winning the boulder and lead rounds in the final after a shaky start in the speed in the qualification round. Janja's rapid transition to boulder events from 2017 onwards was staggering to watch. Her gutsy, high-risk climbing style and broad movement repertoire has redefined modern dynamic climbing and attracted the interest of coaches, so much so that a move has been named after her, the Janja Flick. Like any champion, it's not just her physical capabilities that land her on the top step of the podium. Janja is rarely rattled and generally climbs with the mindset that she is competing to be the best she can be, rather than battling against her competitors. Since Tokyo, however, new challenges in the form of Natalia Grossman and Ai Mori have come into the picture.
Keep an eye out on our YouTube channel for the women's final report or ukclimbing.com for further analysis.